Hello. Welcome back to Let's Talk Ray Bradbury. If you've not taken the occasion yet to subscribe to our channel, please do that now. That helps a lot. Also, give this video a thumbs up. All right, so here on Let's Talk Ray Bradbury, what we're doing is slowly going through the collection, these stories of Ray Bradbury. It's got 100 tales in all. We were up to 92 of 100, which is The Utterly Perfect Murder from 1971. The way these videos work is that I do a synopsis of the plot and action of the story and then wrap up with sort of some thoughts and feelings about how it relates to my life and how it remains relevant even decades after its original publication. So here we are, synopsis. Laying in bed one night beside his wife with his kids down the hall, 48-year-old Doug wakes up and decides that he's going to kill somebody named Ralph Underhill. At age 12, Doug and Ralph had an uneasy best friend-bully relationship. Doug saw Ralph as his best friend, but we find out through the course of the story that Ralph is in fact more or less a bully. Riding by train back to Greentown, Illinois, a trip that Doug describes somewhat as being a time travel journey sort of through his memory. He recalls various incidents from his past. The first memory is Ralph constantly bruising Doug's arm by punching him. It sounds playful, but as the story goes on, we sort of see this is a little bit darker than we understood. Another story, Doug talks about Ralph conning him out of his brother's hand-me-down baseball glove, which was worth at least $2. In return, Doug got some little clay Tarzan statuettes. And then finally, the straw that really broke the camel's back for Doug was realizing that all these years he'd gone to Ralph's house, thrown pebbles out the window to wake him up and go out on weekend mornings to see the sunset and to sort of play and sort of begin their day. It was at that point in his childhood that Doug realized that Ralph never once came to his house to do that, to get him to see him, nor did anyone else. All the effort had been on his side. So Doug started ignoring Ralph. Not only was their relationship never repaired, but this is when Doug really realizes that his friendship had been one-way trip. Eventually, the train pulls into Greentown. Doug finds his way to Ralph's old house. He believes that Ralph would still be there. There's no way that he got out of Greentown, and in fact, this is the case. He comes to the door, he knocks, sort of steps back, and there he is. There's Ralph. But Ralph is diminished. He's barely any taller than he was when he last saw him at age 12. He's balding, he's a little bit fat, his eyes are sunken. He basically seems pretty pathetic and diminished by his life. At this point, Ralph seems to think that he recognizes Doug, but he can't see him. And sort of in Doug's imagination, he goes bang, 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 and as if he's shooting him, as if he's committing this perfect murder. But then he runs off and goes home back to his better life. Before he goes home, he does go to his own old house and throws up some pebbles to the window to wake what he presumed would be his childhood self. Doing this act of friendship, of reciprocation that was never given to him while he was a child. It's a great little story about memory being a form of time travel. Also, the concept of you can't go home again, which is referenced in this story on one occasion. I find this very, very relatable. Sort of my lingering feelings in adulthood at age 41 about some of the relationships that I had that I thought were friendships that were never really reciprocated in the way that I had hoped. I suspect that lots of people feel this way, especially people who struggle in their current lives and are also the nostalgic type. And have sort of uneasy relationships with their own past. That's very much the case with me. I think there's another completely different type of people who live completely in the present and feel no remorse for their actions in the past and no nostalgia for their past. And it must be an amazing feeling, but I think it results in a lot of very rude people who don't necessarily understand the trail of records that they've left behind them in other past relationships. But I have sort of feelings, even not just childhood, but also in adulthood, of relationships that I was in with friends who, it seems to me that they got a lot more from it, from me, than I got in return. And like, I made a lot of effort and I didn't see a lot of that effort returned. There are certainly people in my life who did return effort, and for me, I sort of became the Ralph character, where I wasn't prepared to deal with my emotions and to reciprocate to them. And when they reached out to me, I wasn't ready to have those discussions. But at the same time, I've seen the opposite as well, where I felt like that I was putting in a lot of effort, and these people who never sort of, and even at age 41, Doug was 48 in the story, but like, I've reached out to some of those people, and there was never any indication that they were reaching out to me either at this point. Still some years to go in this life, probably, so maybe that will yet happen. Maybe these people will come to their moments of catharsis and realize that the efforts that I put into friendship back in the day, and that they sort of got off with a lot of perks and things from knowing me, people I introduced them to, and things like that, that sort of I didn't get. And there's a case where people who I introduced to each other became parts of happy relationships and developed families, and here I am. I'm the single 41-year-old. So yeah, makes me sound a little bit pathetic, but not really. I think it speaks to how pathetic some people are, people who use, and you wonder if they keep away from you because they realize what they did to you. So I don't know. But the lesson here, I think, is Doug has carried a lot of childhood baggage into middle age. You got to be careful about that, the way it defines your life. So people should be good to each other, even when they're kids, and because hurts run deep and can come to define us and sort of rule our lives. And that's certainly what happened with the feelings of Doug. And I think in his case, he got the better of it. Ralph seemed pretty pathetic when he went to meet him at age 48. All right. Next up, we'll be looking at The Better Part of Wisdom from 1976. We'll have just 8 more stories to go in Let's Talk Ray Bradbury. Be sure to tune in for that in a couple of days. See you later.